All right, joining us today is a former WCW and WWE superstar. He's also a former two-time U.S. champion. Bill DeMott is on the show today. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Steve, thanks for having me.
I understand you trained with Johnny Rodz in New York City, but what led to that? What got you into pro wrestling, and why was Johnny Rodz the place for you to start?
Well, I'm a Jersey boy, and Johnny Rodz is still after all these years at Gleason's Gym, and Johnny has made Gleason's Gym as famous as it is. He trained the best of the best. My dad was from Brooklyn. When I left college playing ball, long story short, my dad didn't, there had to be something for me to do. So my dad brought me to Gleason's Gym, and at the time we weren't in Gleason's. We're in the parking. It's now a parking structure, but it was a big warehouse right next to the Gleason's, and we went in and watched Johnny. He was putting some guys through their paces. One of the guys was Taz at the time. One of the other guys was Mondo Clean. But Johnny pretty much just said it wasn't for me. I was welcome to watch as long as I wanted, and that was the end of it. He kind of dismissed me. So I kind of took that as a personal challenge. 28 years later, I made a career out of it. It's no coincidence that my coach is in the Hall of Fame. Johnny, if you wanted to become a professional wrestler, part of the business, you had to go through Johnny Rodz and Jose Estrada and guys like that. And so I feel like I had the best teacher around.
Definitely. Now, before making it to the bigger companies, you were competing in dangerous matches down in Puerto Rico and Japan under the name of Crash the Terminator. What was it like working those kind of matches and in those kind of countries? Because it's definitely a little bit different than the States over here, right?
Yeah, I went in there with no knowledge. I was so green. We were just hitting the ropes and having what I would consider just, practice matches, and we got to tour a little bit in the Northeast Independence. Because back then, you drove 8 hours for $10 and you tried to learn your craft. So I was in Puerto Rico and then Mexico and Japan. I had no idea what I was doing. So when they said, barbed wire baseball bats being lit on fire and chair shots to the head, I just thought it was all par for the course and just kept going with it. And next thing you know, I became one of those guys. So it was. I think if you broke it down and said, "This is what we're going to do," I probably would have had a different answer. But I wanted to learn, and I took every opportunity for what it was, and it worked out okay.
Definitely. Now, you worked in a lot of other companies like ECW. But how did you get a WCW contract? From what I understand, you impressed Kevin Sullivan. Can you tell us a little bit about how you first got into WCW?
Yeah, I met Kevin. Kevin was a regular for the Wing promotion, and for other companies in Japan. And Kevin and I got to meet through there, and he saw me work. And I was a 6'2", 350-pound guy who moved pretty good, and I was doing things that the luchadors were doing. And so there was back to that long story short, Vader and Orndorff got into a fight. Vader left the company. Sullivan called me on a Sunday night. The conversation pretty much went, "You still fat? You still wrestling? Be in Macon, Georgia tomorrow." I met Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff and Kevin Sullivan in the Macon Coliseum restroom. We all shook hands, and I became part of WCW.
Awesome. Now, I've talked to a few guys about being in the WWE during the Monday Night Wars, but what was it like being in WCW at that time, especially when Nitro beat Raw in the ratings? Do you have any memories of that happening?
Yeah, all you knew was you were winning, and for guys, let's be honest, I wasn't a main eventer. I wasn't on the top of the card. I was, mid card, and we knew what we were doing was working, and we were just, hoping for the opportunities. But you sit back and listen and learn the business, and we knew we were winning, and then you kind of watched how that theory came about, and as we were winning, we saw how it changed. We kept trying to fix something that wasn't broken. So I was fortunate enough to be in the middle of all that, and I learned a lot about the business during that time. So I thought it was pretty cool that we were number one for as long as we were, and I don't think in the history of the business anybody else could say they gave they gave Vince a run like that. So
definitely. Now, eventually you made it in the WWE with the whole invasion angle, but I want to mention is that you've had a lot of WrestleMania moments behind the scenes producing matches, but can you tell us about your WrestleMania debut and how it didn't go according to plan? Can you tell us how about that little fallout happened with Shane McMahon?
yeah, we got notified. There was myself and 9 other people. I think a total of 10 of us. I think it was. And I took a boat from Singapore into Houston at 4:00 in the morning, so no one would see me. I think we all got brought in different goat buses and chicken buses, and they did everything they could to hide us. We stayed, I forget how many miles outside of Houston, away from all the WWE cats and away from anything that had to do with Mania. We were in a hotel, and it was just a guy who did an interview and was just excited and just told everybody who was going to be there. And as we found out, the WWE way of doing things, that didn't float. And instead of being in the ring at WrestleMania 17 in Houston, standing right alongside of Shane McMahon, I sat next to Lance Storm in a blacked out skybox with moldy cheese and crackers.
Oh, man. But it is what it is, right? Now,
the part for me is, as you look back at it now, being whatever retired is and kind of out of things, is you look back at it, and that was my first WrestleMania moment. And if you take everything for what it is, as an old guy now saying it, then I didn't understand it. But if everything's a learning lesson, I produced matches at WrestleManias. I've been behind the scenes at WrestleManias after that. I've been fortunate through and through in my career. So it's just funny that that's your first WrestleMania moment. For
sure. Now, what are your thoughts, too, on Bill Goldberg was recently he's going to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame this year. Since I believe you were the first wrestler that he fought on TV for his, I guess, the beginning of his streak. Do you have any thoughts on Bill Goldberg going into the Hall of Fame?
I loved it. We heard the news. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Bill and I are buddies. I think the world of Bill, and whenever we do get a chance to pass the night or meet up at some of these conventions, it's always a great time. I sent Bill a message congratulating him. He actually sent me a message congratulating me back. So that's the kind of guy he is. You remember what you're remembered for is what people go by. And if I'm remembered for being his first match, then so be it. The guy's in the Hall of Fame, justifiably so, and I'm happy for him.
Definitely. And lastly, you were there when FCW was branded into NXT, and a lot of top talent we see today, you had a hand in developing. What was it like to go from being a wrestler to being a trainer? Did you like doing that more than the other, or compared to training and wrestling?
Yeah, I just thought it was one and the same. I thought if you were wrestling, you should always be training. And the guys I always surrounded myself with, whether I was in Japan or Mexico or Puerto Rico or even, in WCW, just because you were, quote unquote, you made it as a wrestler didn't mean you weren't training. So I just thought it was a natural progression for me. And, it's the saying is those who can do and those who can't coach. So I just found myself, the more time I had in it, that was just my niche. I think Tough Enough helped with that progression and things like that. But I love training guys. I love to see how they do it and how they get there. And I really think the training part of my career will have more memories than my in-ring,
Mm-hmm.
But I dig it. I dig the training part. Don't get me wrong. Anytime you can lace them up and be in front of 20,000 people, that's the most awesome thing ever.
Definitely. Well, yeah. Once again, everybody, Bill, thank you so much. We appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it. Again, I always appreciate the wrestling community support and everything I do. Thank you.